mountain. Jim Richards, the man they are all chasing in terms of the championship and race wins here. Fitzgerald on row 2 alongside young Clark Quinn in the Pioneer entry, Jonathan Webb and Tony Quinn from the 3rd row. Then it's the Kiwi, Paul Pedersen and Matthew Coleman.
Charlie, you're a bit of a veteran around Bathurst. Make a charge today in race 3.
Oh, look, the car is back to where it should have been at the beginning of the week. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a good race today. We're off 11th on the grid. But just goes to show how silly things can screw you around. A tyre pressure gauge has been reading incorrectly, which is a brand new gauge, been reading 6 pounds too high, and if these cars are so critical, you can't afford that. And the accident that I had on Thursday was attributed to that. And you would think that after all these years that I've been involved in racing that you wouldn't stop learning, but tell you what, that has taught us something this weekend.
We'll certainly watch his progress, as we also will watch Tim Lay, who moved his way up to 13th position after starting off the rear of the grid in the previous race. Peter Fitzgerald gets a much better start, but it's Marcus Marshall who's charged away from Jim Richards. Incidentally, Fitzgerald had some clutch dramas towards the end of the previous race and had to nurse the Enyo Porsche home. Greg Keen's been touched by someone there and he slams into the wall.
Well, that's a massive hit there, Rusty. Look at the front of that car. Is absolutely destroyed. I hope he's okay. It's not very wide, that part of the road, and he's really just nailed it.
You okay? Are you okay?
No, I've had a really big neck hit.
Sit there until they get you back. You just sit there. Do not move. Do not move.
Yeah, some wise words there from crew chief Stuart Martin, just to tell his driver to stay put until the medicos arrive. Let's hope that Greg Keen's all right. Let's have a closer look at this. Now, Peter Hill's off to the outside, but it certainly doesn't seem as though Peter Hill started it. I think Greg may have been in trouble possibly on that ripple strip on the exit of the corner.
Well, the car changed attitude quite early. I don't know if he got it. I think he may have got a slight touch.
Let's have a look. The view from Rodney Jane's car here. Well,
yeah, that just shows the massive thud and impact that the car took. Bearing in mind that it's a left-hand drive car.
Come on, Greg. Speak to me, please. Someone needs to hear your voice. In this particular time, they need to hear you. Come on.
I'm okay, mate. I'm okay.
Can you tell that to Amanda?
Well, thank goodness for that. Greg Keen there on the radio, and that's what we wanted to hear at this time. Enormous damage to that car, and let's hope that he can recuperate in time for the next round of the championship at IndyCar on the Gold Coast as Jim Richards chases Marcus Marshall. Marshall's recorded a few race wins this year, Cam, but gee, they've been few and far between by comparison to Jim Richards, haven't they?
And Jim generally seems to find a way past too, Rusty. But let's go on board with Marcus Marshall across the top of the mountain here, right out to the wall on the outside. A little bit unstable. You can see the attitude of the car. In through McPhillamy Park here, flat to the floor. Looking back now, Jim Richards to come up to Skyline. This is fantastic stuff. You can see Jim now really closing in. Down in towards the dipper. You'll now turn left, swing into the dipper, back to full power, second up to third gear, right out using absolutely every bit of road, down towards Forest Elbow. Very important here to get a nice run, to get maximum exit speed down Conrod.
These two were trading some brilliant times yesterday, and we'll keep an eye on them today. Marcus Marshall got down to a 2-minute 14.7, which isn't really that far off V8 Supercar pace. Where they struggle is coming down Conrod and going up Mountain Straight, but across the top, very similar times as Jim Richards pulls out on Marcus Marshall here. Marshall will have the inside running, but a better line of speed from Jim Richards. Big lunge for Marshall, big move under brakes, but Richards will have, oh no, contact.
Well, that was, we'll have to have a look at that one again. Interestingly, Jim went right over to the left side of the road. He was nearly over the inside white line, and maybe he braked early because Marcus is now in trouble from Tony Quinn having a look back. He'll be able to cover that up, but Marcus went then down the outside and could have nearly had the line had they gone through there side by side. So there was definitely contact, and Jim's come out the better for it, as he did earlier in the weekend.
It was almost like who could take the deeper breath, wasn't it, as they came down into the braking zone. Heading up Mountain Straight once again, Clark Quinn chasing his dad in third spot. Here's Jim Richards. A notable absentee from this race after a crash yesterday is Kevin Bell. Here's a replay. Look at the way the car moves over the bumps coming down into Conrod. Jim Richards And then a big lunge from Marshall.
Well, you can see Jim's moving towards the outside of the road here, and then he's just gone straight ahead. It looks as though he hasn't really made much attempt to make the corner, I've got to say, and you can go too wide through there, so very interesting one, and we'll have to see if we hear any more of that, but he certainly did squeeze, I think, Marcus out of room there a little.
Right at the threshold of braking, both of them, no doubt about that. Across the top, you ride with Peter Hill, ex-Formula 4000 competitor and a very successful Melbourne businessman too.
He is. You can see the Mossimo sticker there, one of Peter's company, his brother Peter and Steve. So he enjoys his racing, and he's been getting faster and faster. He was very disappointed with his qualifying result and certainly hasn't had an easy time of it here this weekend.
That's a very professional outfit as well. Engineer Ross Holder, who worked in recent time with Craig Lowndes and Neil Crompton at 00 Motorsport, is a part of that outfit, run by Greg Murphy's dad Kevin. And they've got some sponsorship from Braun in recent weeks. They're looking toward a long-term deal with that company, which would be just terrific. Matthew Coleman, look at Fitzgerald here. He's under the pump. Coleman has got renewed enthusiasm after this car went through a massive rebuild following that Sandown accident. Fitzgerald heading up to the braking zone. Coleman closes. Let's see what Coleman can do here.
A little bit more mid-corner speed there at Griffin Bend by Matty Coleman. Fitzy's certainly got enough horsepower. I mean, all these cars would be very even, but he was able to stretch the legs there a little bit. But if you have a look at that last lap, just checking the monitors there, Jim Richards, a 2:13.8.
That is staggering. So Richards is flying around Mount Panorama. As we mentioned before, they'll touch around 275 kilometres an hour down Conrod. But I know that Tim Lay was looking at some of his data from the Lansvale Racing Commodore and overlaying it with the Carrera Cupcar, and they're frighteningly close across the top of the mountain. Very similar speeds, aren't they?
Well, they are, and obviously they lose a little bit down the chute, but these cars are very nimble. They're a little bit lighter than a V8 supercar, so they should be as fast, if not a little quicker in some spots, across certainly down the hill there. But good to see Matthew Coleman back out there, and he's just lost a little bit of ground to Fitzy though, and across the top.
The Carrera Cup organisers announced a 2-year deal this morning with Avesco for Carrera Cup to be a support category to the V8s for the next 2 years, which is terrific. And within that, there's a chance for a driver under 30 to win a race as a part of Super Cup next season. So the driver to Europe, creating a real piece of interest. Jim Richards, though, brilliant performance.
Well done, Jim. Fantastic.
Thanks, guys. No, the car was absolutely brilliant. The track was better. It was just fantastic.
Well, judging by the lap times there, indeed it was brilliant. Jim Richards talking with his engineer Carl Batson. Fitzgerald comes across the line. It's been a good, consistent weekend for him. Battle going on between Rodney Jane and Peter Hill from Mossimo. We understand that Hill may have some sort of clutch drama. He gets passed by one of the Mega Jet entries. That's Jack Crocker. Oh, and Jane gets him on the line as well.
Fitzy, third for the round. A pretty good weekend around the mountain.
Yeah, I mean, considering a lousy start on the first day, and then did a clutch yesterday, and we got third, and today was tough. You know, I got another good start, but then Jimmy didn't, and I had to back it off into one, and that put me fifth coming out, so I had to do it all from behind, and the Quins were playing a pretty good dodge 'em game up front of me, so it was a matter of I knew I'd end up with third points for the round, and that's really what we need to do.
Stuart, you're Greg's team manager. How is he, firstly?
Oh, not too bad. He's just got a bit of a sore neck, you know, like a C6 or whatever they call it. He said it's not a stress fracture. He can move his head around, and just a bit of a headache, and he's basically bolted. You know, he's off to Adelaide and back into the surgery and to do his job.
And he's left plenty of work for you to do. It's not a pretty sight, is it?
No, it's not. It's in a short time we've got it to get ready for Indy. We'll have it up and rolling, hopefully.